Hello everyone. Again, I'm Jennifer from the product marketing team, and I'm really excited to have 3 customers here with me today. We're going to be talking about the challenges involved with choosing and getting started with a PIM. But first, I would like to introduce our special guests. With me today are Julie McManus from Phillips Pet Food and Supplies, David Allison from SpleeNumber Corporation, and Corey Deschambault from Bombardier Recreational Products. So thank you again for being part of our panel. So to get us started, the decision-making process when investing in a PIM can often be very complex and challenging. And today, we're going to talk about some of these customers' own experiences with getting started with a PIM and advice on things to consider during the selection process. So, first of all, I'd like to give each of you a chance to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your role in your company. So, Julie, let's start with you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Julie McManus. I run our PMO for Phillips Pet Food. We are the largest pet food, pet treat distributor in the country. We have 11 warehouses spread from the east to the west coast, and it's just an amazing, fun business. You can have your dog in the camera on Zoom and cat hair on your clothes, and it's all just fine. So, great company to work for, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Yep. And I'm David Allison. I work for SleepNumber. I'm a product manager there, heading up a product catalog initiative. My Sleep IQ score is 35. We have to do that. But no, we sell mainly through our brick and mortar. We have over 660 stores across the United States. We do have a digital presence as well. And if you work for us, you do get a free bed. No dogs, but you do get a bed.
And Corey, I am the content specialist for BRP. We sell units like Ski-Doo, Sea-Doo, the Can-Am lineup, on-road and off-road. So it's a wide variety of products. We're an international company, and I run the content marketing strategy for e-commerce.
All right, thank you. So Corey, I would like to start with you with the first question. And since we are talking about investing in a PIM, my first question for you is, why did your organization feel that you needed a PIM?
We are a manufacturer, so we're in a bit of a unique position where we create our own products. We have a wide dealer network across the globe. So we're in that position where we create a lot of content for a wholesale purpose, and we're going through a digital transformation at this point. So we're trying to get from that mindset of wholesale. We're just saying, hey, you guys are going to buy from us. This is the product lineup. We sell it to you, and then we forget about it. So now we're trying to transform and have that dialogue with customers where we're saying, okay, we're going to be more of a retail mindset. We want to talk directly to consumers. We want to have our advantages up in the forefront. So that's when we looked at our tech stack and saying, okay, we're really missing a key piece to contain that product information, to control what the product information is going to be, and to make sure that we have that unified experience that's really central to our brand values.
Okay, thank you. So one of the things we had talked about in our preparation for today's panel is that you had also had some challenges with silos within your organization. Could you tell us a little bit more about some of the issues you faced?
Yeah, so when I joined BRP, it was when we actually developed our e-commerce department. So it's a brand new department in the organization. Even the digital, what we call our digital factory, is a pretty new concept within the company. So part of that is a huge change management project. So when we started looking at the PIM, we were doing the RFP, we had about 170 Excels floating around between 6 or 7 different departments. So they're managing the print catalogs, the websites, e-commerce catalogs. Dealers would come into play at some point where they got the product information. So we really were like, okay, guys, we need to take a minute. We need to evaluate where we're at. We need to get some data consistency because some stuff would show up on one channel, some stuff would show up on another channel, and at the end of the day, on the channel we actually want to show up would be outdated from 6 months because we got the wrong Excel. So that's where we were like, okay, let's start centralizing this. Let's collect it all. Let's cleanse it and try and go best foot forward.
You know, we were talking about chaos this morning, and that sounds like complete chaos. I understand why you needed a PIM.
Yeah.
So Julie, Phillips recently purchased Akeneo, and from what I understand, one of the reasons you selected Akeneo was to help address some of the pain points that you've been experiencing due to rapid growth, because you've had multiple acquisitions. Can you tell us more about some of the challenges you've had with your rapid growth and the acquisitions, and how that led you to decide that you needed a PIM?
Sure, we're very similar to the BRP with, so we acquired a number of companies, and our data management team was managing everything with Excel. So hundreds of thousands of different product combinations all through Excel. We couldn't keep it, we had no one source of truth, right? It's just information's all over the place. Chicken is spelled 8 different ways. It doesn't make sense for our strategy to be where we were product-wise, because we look at some of our stores. So we're a distributor. We distribute mainly to stores. And we'd go to a store's website, and their product is so much more robust. You know, the website was so much more robust. And so we determined that we needed to get the PIM in order to continue on our #1 distributor in the industry. So.
Well, I think that's a great idea, to see what others are doing and use that for inspiration for how
It was
you
like
can
theirs and ours. It was incredibly disappointing. I showed it to the CEO. I'm like, look at this. Look what they have. And ours is, yeah. So.
Okay, David, now it's your turn. So I would like to learn more about what you've been doing at SpleeNumber. And I know that your approach to PIM is rather unique. You, instead of purchasing Akeneo to support e-commerce sites or marketplaces, you initially purchased Akeneo for your customer service representatives.
Yeah, that's
Can
right.
you tell us about that?
Yeah, so at SpleeNumber, we have a digital team. They had e-commerce that came with a PIM, so we weren't replacing that. Our initial use cases, again, yes, were around service. So we have very long warranties on our beds, so up to 25 years or 15 years. So someone can call and say, I bought my bed 20 years ago, the pump's acting up, I need a replacement. So the initial use cases was, one is how to track those replacements over the years, because no system was really tracking it, and actually a new process around that as well. So that was a key place, and we really didn't have a place in service where we store product information in a single place. Everything's very ERP oriented, and it gets pushed over to CRM, and there's nowhere else outside of just recreating information. So I think a little future looking was looking at a more foundational technology as well. And that's what we looked for as PIM too, is we had our vision as a foundation, and then the short term was more in the service center around warranties, replacement parts, and a little bit around compatibility use cases.
Thank you. That's a great use case to demonstrate how many different ways that you can work with your product information to help support your business.
Yep.
And I've got another question for you. So before Akeneo, from what I understand, SpleeNumber relied primarily on an ERP system to feed product information to your CSRs, your customer service representatives. Why was this not a sustainable solution?
Yeah, so I should have mentioned is like a lot of companies, we had a lot of growth, especially over COVID. People wanted to sleep comfortably, and that's continued. So there is this vision, long term, we do want to grow, to a $5 billion company. So one, just kind of technology-wise, that made sense. But the challenge for us is, ERP, I know we've all been there, is that everything is created there from a SKU perspective and maintained there. So a lot of the service attributes and service needs are built within that kind of supply chain process. So that was a challenge and still is, to kind of change that mindset to say, hey, like how we build, that's an ERP, but how we service doesn't necessarily have to be, is really decouple those processes and use PIM as a foundation for that. So it's difficult, especially when everyone is joining at the hip to ERP and that process, like everyone's part of that, and so kind of breaking that apart is one of our challenges that we keep working through.
Okay. So Corey, I have another question for you. So this is kind of interesting, I thought. You often sell products that are embargoed before the official launch, and working with those embargoed products was pretty painful, trying to prepare for the launch and get everything ready to go. Can you tell us about some of the challenges that you've had working with embargoed products and how you were able to solve that by adopting a PIM?
Yep. So to give you guys a bit of context, every year or twice a year we have a model year update for all of our units. So it's twofold in our businesses where we update all the new product lines for the units that we'll be selling for that year. But then alongside of that, we're going to have the parts and accessories that we'll be selling off to the side. So on our PIM setup right now, we're just managing the parts and accessories. But that adds the complexity because we have these accessories that are specifically designed to fit on a specific unit. And we can't let that information go out of the system, otherwise it'll kind of spoil the reveal of anything that we'll be launching. So in the past, how we were managing is that we'd have somebody, it's terrible to say it now when we look back on it, but basically all that master data would sit on somebody's computer in their local folders in Excel. They'd do a good sanity check, they'd double check it, they'd have a developer sit beside them to make sure that they could push it live to Magento. If you guys are familiar with Magento, the import system on that tool is not very flexible, so you have to be very, very, very precise on how you import it. So yeah, so day of, hour of, someone would sit beside us, we'd make sure the data's all right, you would pray that person never got sick and was able to show up to work that day, and then they'd push it live. But now with the PIM, we actually have like actual visibility on when the product's going to be beforehand. We can see what you're going to get. You can see the products. You can see the images. You can see if we're missing content. We can look at the content, and then it's just a flick of the switch to say, hey, publish. So we have a lot less stress, and it's more flexibility for our team.
Wonderful. So I've got one more question about challenges before we switch gears a little bit, and this is for you, Julie. So Philips is a distributor, and you work with a lot of different suppliers. What were some of the challenges you were having getting information from your suppliers?
Well, we would send them this really cool Excel spreadsheet that had 122 columns that they had to fill out, and we just got a little bit of pushback on that. Our time to market. So if anyone here has pets, new food every day. We got vendors every day coming to us. Hey, I want to be a vendor because we have this, single source of protein. We have kangaroo meat. We have, rat meat, whatever. And we get a lot of vendors coming to us every day, and our time to market with this really cool Excel spreadsheet is just unsatisfactory. So it's taking 45 days, 60 days. We get it partially filled out. Some of it, they don't even understand it. It breaks their computers, all these things. So we had to make the experience for our vendors easier to do business with us. And that was a big driver of choosing it, is getting a PIM, to make it just the speed to market, and then just easier for them to do business with us.
Okay. So you really get like kangaroo meat, rat meat?
No, not never. Well, there may be rat meat, but no, there are. We don't put that on the ingredients.
Okay.
But yes, kangaroo meat for sure. So, crocodile.
All right, so we've covered some of the pain points that you had that led you to realize that you wanted to adopt a PIM. And now I want to switch gears a little bit and talk more about why you specifically chose Akeneo PIM to solve those challenges. And David, my first question is for you. It's an easy one. Can you tell us why SpleeNumber decided to go with Akeneo?
Sure. So we had a few use cases we gave to the sales team at Akeneo. Is we want to see compatibility. So we allow for a 100-day exchange. So if you go to the store, you get a I-10 bed, you have 100 days to go and change it to a different bed. So we wanted a way to understand, what are you allowed to exchange? What are some of those rules? And then the other, like we talked about, is how can we see the serviceable parts for a given mattress? We sell more than just beds. We do sheets and accessories as well as furniture. So we want to see all that modeled in too. So the pre-sales team did a good job of scrubbing our website, getting data, really showing the basics of PIM. We had some people in-house that had pretty good backgrounds in PIM, so I think we weren't worried about the common things. We were really worried about, can it do these extra things. The other thing that was key was we asked to get access to our instance. So we were able to actually log in and get into the pre-sales kind of demo world. I'm not sure if they want me to tell everyone that. And we had a pretty good amount of time to kick the tires from our perspective. Like, we're very rigorous in technology, and we were able to get in and actually go to the different departments that weren't able to be in part of the sales process and show. And we were able to actually uncover things they liked in the tool as well, such as projects and some of the workflow. So it's positive all around to get our hands on it and then be able to be our own sales team internally to the different groups in the organization.
So Corey, when you were evaluating PIM options, your team created some scoring criteria to help them. Can you tell us about the criteria that was important to you, and how did Akeneo fare?
Yeah. So when we were doing our selection of which PIM solution to go with, we did a formal RFP. So as the whole process, we developed a scoring metric to look at what was going to be the usability, what's the integration, just to give like a broad overview of what's the impacts of this solution. And also at that time, we were developing our entire tech stack, so we didn't have our e-commerce when we were looking at Akeneo, but we knew, since our department is new and everybody comes from a retail background, we knew what we wanted and we knew what we needed. So we were just trying to make sure it was going to be a right fit for everything. So within that tech stack, within that scoring criteria, it was price, it was UX, it was admin, it was functionalities, and funnily enough, the Akeneo scored quite well on all of our metrics, except for the price. So that's one thing where we're like, they're a much more expensive option compared to what else we were looking at, but then we started to think about what does that mean for the business? Yes, it might be more expensive on the front end, but all that training, all that user access, all that business logic to get people on board and to actually use the tool, that has a cost to it. So we said, we were basically able to justify the price and say, like, you know what, it's front end loaded, but the benefits to the business outweigh the price. So that's why we ultimately went with them.
So ultimately, you were able to save time and money by having that extra support up front to help you get started.
And it's also helping our change management since it's easier to adopt. We don't need to sit with every new team member for an hour to be like, this is how you use this. Oh, you don't know what a product model is. Oh, you don't know what a family is. Let me bring this whole new concept to you. Since we're an old company and some people aren't very tech savvy, so we have to explain a lot of stuff.
So Julie, you have a pretty interesting story about the PIM selection process. Philips was evaluating 3 separate PIMs as part of an RFP, and none of which were Akeneo at the time, but at the last minute, you pivoted and decided to go with Akeneo. What was it that made you walk away from the 3 solutions that you were vetting and go with the last minute entry?
So we did go through the RFP. We had 3 companies. We went through the demos. Some were good, some were boring. And we're not rigorous like they are. Our IT guy came to us the Thursday before we were supposed to make the decision on Friday. He said, hey, you guys need to look at this. And he did his own demo. So he pulled all the players together and put together a demo of Akeneo. And we were like, wow, this is nice. And he was like, it's so easy. I want to go with this. So I called Akeneo and I said, hey, you know, how quickly can you pull together like a legit demo? That's not us. And they did it. I think the sales process was very quick. We saw everything we liked in the demo. We liked the sales guy, the relationship, the user. It's just very user-friendly, a lot more user-friendly. The demo was actually exciting, unlike some of the other ones. Like, if you're going to sell us, make sure you're excited about it, type of thing. And that happened with our demo. So it was, I think it was a good for all of us. And the team couldn't be more thrilled with the product. They just absolutely love it. And it is as user-friendly as we thought it was. So.
All right, well, thank you. And congrats to that pre-sales team who did that demo. You clearly did a great job.
I know he's still waiting for his cut.
So beyond, it sounded like, you know, the IT person was on board because it was going to be easy to get up and running, and you got a great demo. Was there anything else about the product, any specific features that stood out to you that made you ultimately go with Akeneo?
I think we didn't show any of the team any of the pricing. We let it was just a small group of data integrity people. We let them decide. And they decided based on how easy they felt it was to use, how easy they thought it would be to implement, what we could do. Similar to BRP, we were going to get a PIM for this one small team of people in our company. And as other people started hearing about it, they're more and more excited, the catalog people, the marketing people. So it was just, we got some real excitement going with the product. So.
Fantastic. All right, so now that we've talked about why you chose Akeneo, let's talk about some of the experiences you've had working with Akeneo PIM. And so David, I know your team is just now finishing your project, and you're looking for ways to spread word internally to other stakeholders. And from what I understand, you are doing an internal roadshow. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yep, sure. So we don't treat product catalog or PIM as a project. It's a product to us. So we internally, put a flag in the sand to say, hey, here's our vision, here's our roadmap. And what we realized is we need to reach out more across the business to not just do the common use cases, but really get in and understand the pain points in the business. SpleeNumber is a vertically integrated company. So what that means is we do it all. Like from the time you're in the store to you put in your order, we have a warehouse with the beds. We ship those to ADCs where we assemble them. We do home delivery. We do service. We have 2 call centers. So there's so many touch points with product. So our goal across all that is to create a common and smart product experiences. So for us, it was to get out there and be evangelist and really tell a good story about, not just what it is, but what it can be, for those specific groups. So we're still doing it, but it's a good way to continue to build ROI and have everyone understand the value in the business of PIM and kind of our initiatives.
So has that been successful for you? Are more people coming up to you and saying, I want access to the PIM, I want to be able to start working with this?
Yeah, it has. And what's really good is, everyone does funding different, is realize, how great would it be if, our home delivery team said they needed us versus us going the other way. So I think it's very good internally, depending on your companies, and strategically to be, hand in hand with these teams as they come in and get funding, knowing that, hey, we really need PIM and this team to be successful in these initiatives. So yeah, I think it's just starting, but yeah, I think it's going to be really great for us, next year.
Fantastic. So Corey, your team at BRP was going into this project, and as you were working to set up the PIM, you realized that you were going to be missing some information. And so you created a dream sheet with the information that you wanted to have, knowing that you would have to go back later and address everything in your ideal state after the launch. Can you tell us more about how you came up with this approach and how has that worked out for you so far?
Yeah, so when we created that dream sheet, data has never been our strong point at BRP. So we created more of a dream sheet to say, what's all the competition doing? What's the values that we want to have? So we built our entire data model with fictionary data. The data doesn't exist as of today, but we saw this as an opportunity to work with the other teams and the other departments to say, hey guys, this is what we want to do. This will help achieve our vision for the product experience, all of that stuff. How can we get there? Who do we need to talk to? Do we need to keep going up the chain? It's more of our pivot on how we reevaluate our business processes. So maybe that team shouldn't even be doing that stuff. There should be a different team, try and reshuffle internally so we're more agile, we're more aligned, and also allows us to have a lot longer of a timeline instead of saying we're going to be going live with this in 2 years, let's get this stuff all ready. We're doing iterative, so like 1 year we're going to do 1 phase, next year we'll start doing more phase, so in the 3-4 years we can have flagship content for everything.
I think that's a great approach, because if you waited for everything to be perfect, you would never get to move forward. So at least now you have something that is providing value and you will continue to build on it.
And it doesn't help that we sell parts and accessories for units. So we sell screws, we sell helmets, we sell t-shirts, we sell bumpers. And that's every single part of those products are a different team completely. So it's really, really complicated to figure out what's the right product information, what's actual relevant product information. Because you could talk about you don't want to put a marketing description on a screw because no one cares. But if you want a bumper, you want a marketing description so somebody understands, oh, I want that bumper for this reason.
Okay. And so Julie, now that you've gone through the PIM selection process and you're a couple of months into your Akeneo project, do you have any advice or recommendations for anyone about to go through the same process?
I think do your research. I think we would have ended up with maybe a less than desirable solution for us had the IT guy not come forward and said, hey, let's take a look at this. So make sure you do your research. We also had people coming out and saying, we only did it because of the data integrity team, but the marketing team wants it, the e-commerce team wants it, the pricing team wants it, the warehouse people want it. So we should have, we probably, not that it's hurt us, but we probably should have engaged some of those internal partners earlier, so that, and we are now, to help build out the attributes and the things that we didn't have previously. We didn't know what we didn't have, and now we know what we don't have, and we're building it to satisfy all those stakeholders.
Okay. So David and Corey, what about you? Any advice now that you've gone through this process? Anything that you would advise someone who's about to start working with a PIM, or anything that you wish you'd done differently to change how you got started?
Yeah, I could go first. So I think for us, we were really focused on the service side of the business. I mean, we definitely kicked the tires and said, yes, it can do all these things. And I think for us, it's probably pulling in a few more stakeholders early on. Like, they may have not been in scope for year 1 or year 2, but it would have been good to have some more of our brand managers, or maybe creative. Like I said, digital had, their own, PIM, so to speak. But it would have been great to get them on board. Like, even if they were going to look at it today, at least they know it's there, and they'd feel better if they had a part of it. So I think just getting more of the stakeholders involved across the business, depending on the size, I think definitely something probably do better. Have to redo it. So
My 2 cents would be, don't underestimate the change management. Plan a certain amount of time, then double it. Yeah, it's always a pain. You never know what you're going to get. 2-3 months later on, you'll discover new parts that you forgot about, or that no one ever told you about. But it is a system that's quite agile, so you can really adapt things quickly. So just be flexible. It's going to change quite a bit.
I would agree with that, because we, like I said, everything's in ERP, and now what we're saying is, like, all that information doesn't have to be, and it's a massive change that we totally underestimated effort, people, and time for that.
So Corey, you mentioned change management. In our pre-panel interviews as we were preparing for this, change management was something that came up quite a bit. Could you tell us more about your own change management process?
So when I was originally hired at BRP, I think that was probably the first comment on what my job is. And they said, yeah, these are your responsibilities, but your job is change management. That's all you guys do. You don't need to do anything else other than change the organization. So we spend most of our time evangelizing our digital vision and e-commerce vision to the rest of the departments. So we talk about how could they sell products on the marketplace, how could we sell products through our e-commerce channel themselves, and then just trying to explain to people the complexities of today's modern world, which you guys touched on a bit on for shared catalogs and that, but we recently discovered that, yes, there's options, and we have dedicated teams to provide product information to the dealer network. But a lot of dealers just crawl our website and pull all the information directly from our website. So that's something when we're planning, we're like, well, wait, you guys are taking it directly from our e-commerce? So now we're trying to rope in with the product teams, like, listen, majority of the dealer network just takes it directly from our own websites. Like, let's put all the investment there because it's so important, whereas maybe a print catalog might not be as essential as you think. So a lot of the assumptions where the business that does it this way is not actually reality how a lot of people work. And we don't have any control over our dealer networks because it's usually they're shared dealerships. So it'll be half of our BRP product lineup, then the other half will be Polaris, and then maybe a Harley Davidson in there. So we have absolutely no control over what they want. So we just want to make sure we have good tools and good information to give to them so that they prefer us.
Okay. So are you still tasked to be in charge of change management, or?
I think I will for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like you're making great strides.
I just haven't moved my performance review, so.
Well, we could send you some kudos if that would help.
Exactly. I'll put my comment section.
So David, with SpleeNumber, initially you had a smaller scope for your launch with the Akeneo PIM, and you were going to focus on a few immediate problems to solve, knowing that Akeneo PIM would be part of your long-term strategy. So how did you balance those considerations between what you needed to do immediately and what you were going to plan for in the future?
yeah, I think everyone's kind of touched on that. I think we really painted out a good vision of where we wanted to be. We knew the company goals, and we were trying to align up to those strategies as well. So with the growth, $5 million company, we know where we wanted to be in 3 or 5 years. So that was a long-term vision, and just, there's no wrong answer, but like, where do we see ourselves there? And there was a lot of just creative thought of like, here's where we want to be. But unfortunately, you still have to get there, and I think that's where we pulled back and said, what can we do incrementally to add value to the business and to customers to reach that long-term vision. So I think it was good to have that exercise to understand where we could go. But I think reality is, what are we going? It's always, what are you going to do this quarter for us? And I think that's what keeps the ball rolling and keeps everyone motivated behind the product.
Okay. Thank you. So we do have a few minutes left, and I'm going to put you on the spot and just ask if there's anything else that you'd like to add while we're up here talking about why companies need a PIM, why you decided Akeneo, or how Akeneo is helping you address the challenges that led you to need a PIM.
I could jump in. One thing that I find, especially on the content side, which is a huge help, is the workflow management tools for Akeneo. So the ability to assign specific teams, especially when it's not clearly defined the RACIs within your organization, it helps quite a bit to be like, all right, now we have a work back schedule, now you have timelines to hit. Like, guys, we need to have less of a linear approach to content creation, more of we're all taking off, we're divide and conquer, and we have that one date to hit at the end of the day. So yeah, Excel is not a strong suit for that.
No, it's not.
I think for us, we didn't really know we needed one, and actually the person who asked us to get it is no longer with us, and she went and did her own grooming companies. But to look at other websites and look at ours, and if you're the person that makes, I wouldn't even buy anything from us. It's one flat picture of a bag of dog food. We don't have the ingredients. We don't have a lot of the things that we should have, and we know this for us, as we, we're mostly B2B, but when we go B2C, I think in both businesses, it's gonna help us increase our sales, just because of the robustness of the information. And if you're really searching for that kangaroo meat, in the past I couldn't find it, but now with the PIM, I'm gonna be able to find it. So we didn't know what we didn't know, now we do.
Yeah, that's progress.
Yeah, for me, I think I touched on it before, just the type of organization we have, where we are vertical and we have so many different groups. I think the importance of evangelizing between those groups constantly and creating those relationships. I mean, my counterpart's here, he's good at that. It's just constantly being top of mind with these different groups to know, like, hey, I know someone's doing this internally, like, where can I get that? And just, so yeah, just constant evangelizing across teams. I think that's a big deal for us.
Well, thank you. So thank you so much for joining us for this conversation about the challenges that lead a company to understand why they need a PIM, as well as the benefits that these 3 customers have found by adopting Akeneo PIM. Thank you so much for coming up here and sharing your experiences. Let's give them a round of applause.